On June 2008, J.K. Rowling stepped up to the Harvard podium to give a commencement address. It was a typical day at Harvard, I would imagine. A famous person goes up to arguably the most famous podium in the world, and she gives a speech. But there was something special about this speech that really captivated her audience, or at least I thought so, and millions of viewers online. It ended up garnering more views than Oprah doing the same thing. Over 1 million more views. She was better than Oprah, guys. That is some feat, right? So today I want to talk about what I think makes a good speech. What makes a good speech great, actually. So, good morning. Good morning, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. Today we're going to talk about what makes a good speech great. And I am not an expert, so let's just put that right out there. I have just sat through a lot of speeches apparently, and I've listened and been captivated by some, a lot of them actually, and not by others. There is sort of a je ne sais quoi when it comes to good speaking, and I thought this is a good opportunity to sit down and say, what exactly are those things? And maybe you'll agree with me, or maybe you won't. It's all fine, right? In any case, a good speech is, I think, comprised of at least 3 elements. There's more, of course, right? But 3 elements. Illustrations, well used, the element of surprise, and humor, particularly when you're not funny. That's tricky. So let me talk to you about illustrations. Illustrations are key, and they're incredibly important when you're explaining points. And for this reason alone, we don't go home and read the dictionary, do we? No. It's a litany of facts. And what do? We go home and maybe we pick up a novel, a story. Because we are stories, right? They're dynamic and emotional and integrated. And so when we are having a really dynamic speech, someone's using story to tell it. And that's what J.K. Rowling did. She told her story, and that was what happened throughout the whole commencement address. People were drawn in right away. That's my first point, using illustrations well. And someone who does that very, very well is Malcolm Gladwell. And you probably know about him. He's a very, very famous author as well. And he has an awesome podcast, if you are into that kind of thing, called Revisionist History. And the tagline to that is, history that is overlooked and misunderstood. Like, it already grabs you right away. Like, I want to know what you're talking about, Malcolm Gladwell. And so what I did at the beginning of my speech is what Malcolm does. We're on first name basis, me and Malcolm. He starts with a captivating story, and it's connected to his topic, but not apparently right out the gate. So it leaves you wondering, why is he telling me this? And he doesn't give it all away. Like at the beginning, I didn't give it all away. I told you that J.K. Rowling's speech was surprising, but I didn't tell you what it was about, right? What captivated her audience, but I'm going to tell you now. The second one is element of surprise. I think J.K. Rowling blew it out of the park because it was surprising. She talked about failure. And not just failure like, I failed and now I've turned it into a learning opportunity, which is what we get kind of a lot, which is still true, still good. But with J.K. Rowling, she said the failure catapulted her into her destiny, like what she wanted to do within part of her story. But she didn't even dwell there. A lot of people would say, oh, let's focus on the Harry Potter series and tell me all about your great success. She did not do that. She said it was the failure. She kind of skipped along the Harry Potter stuff, but said it was my humanitarian work, it was the relationships that I had fostered, and she told the Harvard crowd, with privilege comes responsibility. Go out and be good people. Wow, right? To Harvard. It was thought-provoking and surprising, and it's difficult to do because you have to really sit in your topic and come at it from a new perspective that people are not immediately grabbed onto, right? So it takes a little bit of work. The last thing I'm going to say is humor. At the beginning of J.K. Rowling's speech, she did a public speaking blunder that I think is a blunder anyway, is you go up and you say, I'm nervous to be up here. And then you just let it hang, right? Because then everybody knows, I'm nervous. I'm nervous to be up there. I don't want to be up there, and they're nervous. Oh no, we're all on this train going off a cliff. We don't want to do that. But she didn't linger there. She said, I'm nervous to be up here, but if I become more nervous, I'll just look out in the crowd and think that I'm at a Gryffindor reunion. And if you know anything about Harry Potter, Gryffindor is one of the houses in Hogwarts, right? If you have young kids or you like fantasy, no. Okay, it doesn't matter. The banners at Harvard are burgundy, right? And I didn't even notice it either, but those are the colors of Gryffindor, the most popular house as well. So everyone's like, oh yay, we're all at the Gryffindor reunion, everyone felt great. So humor. If you're not a funny person, here's 3 things you can remember. Number 1, create a little bit of tension. And then break it by noticing something that maybe is a little overlooked. How many comedians just say, have you ever noticed when, why are yogurts, you know? And then that's funny to us because we don't think about it. So I think the components of a good speech is taking your topic and really just sitting in it. And what are the elements of illustration that you can kind of stretch your topic? Or the second thing, how can you surprise them with something they haven't thought about? Or with humor, what's something that's just obvious but overlooked? And then it becomes this environment where you really draw people in. And that's what I think makes a good